Hello friends, welcome to Unacademy. This is me, Dr. Sidharth Arora, and friends, today I have come with what is called as paper analysis. Now, this is something that I'm so happy, so delighted to do because जब मैंने ये पेपर देखा PSIR optional 1, so I was so happy that large amount of hard work, large amount of concentrated smart work which has gone in me making my aspirants prepare for this exam came out with huge rewards फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस. तो मेरे स्टूडेंट्स ने देखते ही ये पेपर बोला होगा इट वाज अ वेरी प्रेडिक्टेबल एग्जामिनेशन. हमने बहुत बार इसको इन तरह के क्वेश्चंस को ना सिर्फ पढ़ा ना सिर्फ डिस्कस किया बट ऑल्सो वी डिड आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस ऑफ दिस एंड आई एम डिलाइटेड टू announce that I have been able to keep my promise and equally delighted if not more कि finally UPSC is started to ask those kind of questions जो कि relevant questions है, the kind of questions which should be expected out of an exam of the stature of UPSC, and I'm very happy. So इस छोटे से टाइम पीरियड में I will try and analyze the parts. अब मेरा प्लान कुछ ऐसा था, my plan was that I will call a student or an aspirant of जो हमसे पढ़ा हुआ है and we will have a discussion with them. So but for some inadvertent reason we couldn't do that. So what will we do? The section 1 or the section A, that is, of the paper 1, we would wait till the next time when that student or the learner is ready, and in this one we will do the discussion of the section B, which is easier or rather not requiring any kind of discussion. मैं चाहता हूँ कि एक एस्पिरेंट कैसे इन क्वेश्चंस को अप्रोच करता है. आई वॉन्ट एवरी वन टू सी दोस. सो वो एक अलग ही होता है. हर टीचर अपना अपना बता के चले जाता है. दैट इज नॉट हाउ आई थिंक अ डिस्कशन शुड हैपन. सो दिस इज मी डॉक्टर सिद्धार्थ अरोरा. अनअकैडमी की दुनिया में मुझे सिड लाइव मेरे कोड के नाम से जाना जाता है. ये मेरा टेलीग्राम चैनल है. प्लीज ज्वाइन दिस टेलीग्राम चैनल एवरीवन सो दैट मुझे जो भी आपके साथ कम्युनिकेट करना होता है we'll be able to communicate. So the Telegram channel is up there. Please take a screenshot and join that. All right. और अगर तुम लोग टेक savvy हो तो अपने मोबाइल कैमरा से इस कोड को स्कैन कर लो and you will be able to join this. All right. So ये है मेरा टेलीग्राम चैनल और मैं कुछ अनाउंसमेंट्स करना चाहता हूँ. अनअकैडमी ने आप लोगों के लिए एक ऑसम ऑफर लाया है in which till 19th of January, please remember ये केवल 19th of January तक अवेलेबल है. 63,898 में आपको 18 मंथ्स का कॉम्बो कोर्स मिल जाएगा, जीएस एंड ऑप्शनल कंबाइंड. सिर्फ आपको मेरा कोड याद रखना है, SIDLIVE. सिड लाइव कोड यूज करते आप पार्ट ऑफ टीम सिड लाइव बन जाएंगे एंड यू विल बी एबल टू गेट द ह्यूज एडवांटेज ऑफ दिस ऑफर. सो देयर आर वीकेंड टेस्ट सीरीज ऑफ all kinds, UPSC CSE Combat. Unacademy is offering you everything, चाहे वो प्रैक्टिस क्विजेस हो, चाहे वो टेस्ट सीरीज हो, और ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट द UPSC CSE ऑप्शनल चैनल इन bilingual and Hindi has been launched. All you have to remember is the code SEDLIVE and join this. So आपको ये मेजर अनाउंसमेंट्स है and all of you should take advantage of, चाहे वो आइकॉनिक सब्सक्रिप्शन हो जिसमें 1:1 लाइव मेंटोरिंग होगा, स्टडी प्लानर होगा, ओपन हाउस विद एजुकेटर्स होगा, लोन अवेलेबल होंगे. आपको सिर्फ एक कोड याद रखना है, सेड लाइव, एंड देन यू सी दिस ऑफर एज एन ह्यूज ऑफर. सो इन द वर्ड्स ऑफ अनअकैडमी, let's crack it. It's very important and we are here to help you crack it. And you're a wise gang of students, take a wise decision, but take it now. Join SED Live and give yourself a realistic chance of cracking this exam. So as I said, मेरे पास अवेलेबल जो पेपर है दैट इज पेपर 1 सेक्शन बी. The paper 1 section A, we will take it on in another session, preferably with a learner having a proper discussion with us. So पहले हम इसको start करते हैं. As I said, the paper was very predictable, but not, I don't say predictable, but very decent enough to check out कि स्टूडेंट को सब्जेक्ट समझ में आता है कि नहीं. So let us discuss and I'm sure you will really enjoy this discussion and you will take advantage. तो मैं चाहता हूँ तुम नोट्स बना लो and take full advantage of this part. तो पहला क्वेश्चन था obviously this is section B. So निम्नलिखित में से प्रत्येक का लगभग 150 शब्दों में उत्तर दीजिए. तो अब ये I'm going to address this in Hindi and थोड़ा बहुत मैं इंग्लिश में तुम्हारे हेल्प कर लूंगा. So answer the following in about 150 words. So your 150 words का है, okay. So obviously you have to go very fast in this part. So इसमें ज़्यादा रूपरेखा मत बांधना, okay. Go straight to the so-called targeted question. The first question. So I'm just reading out in Hindi. Of course, I'll discuss in both of the language, but primarily in English. भारत का संविधान एक ऐतिहासिक प्रक्रिया का परिणाम है जो संवैधानिक पूर्ववर्तों से समृद्ध है. टिप्पणी कीजिए. द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया इज अ प्रोडक्ट ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस रिच विद कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एंटीसीडेंट्स. तरीका अलग अलग है. क्वेश्चन डायरेक्टली ये बात पूछा गया है कि व्हाट आर द वेरियस हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट्स विच फाइनली शेप्ड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. सो मैं हमेशा जब ये पढ़ा रहा होता हूँ तो आई ऑलवेज टेल यू दैट यू नो फ्रांस में रेवोल्यूशन हुआ, स्पेन में रेवोल्यूशन हुआ, यूएस में रेवोल्यूशन हुआ, चाइना में रेवोल्यूशन हुआ. इंडिया में कोई रेवोल्यूशन नहीं हुआ. इंडिया में एक नेशनल फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल हुआ. नेशनल फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल एक ऑलमोस्ट एक एवोल्यूशनरी प्रोसेस था. इट वाज ऑलमोस्ट एन एवोल्यूशनरी प्रोसेस जिसमें वेरियस हिस्टोरिकल प्रिंसिपल्स, वेरियस हिस्टोरिकल स्टेप्स केम टुगेदर वन बाय वन. वी लर्न एंड फाइनली मेड इट इनटू अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. सो if I quote, तो इसमें quotes डालना जरूरी होता है. So if I quote Dr. Ambedkar for that matter, so as Dr. Ambedkar said, it is not a legal document. It is a social document which is written in legal language. It was the end result of many social aspirations जो हम लोग को fulfill करनी पड़ी या करनी चाहिए थी. So we were not the finality, we were not the end product of any revolution or so-called a knee-jerk reaction या violent struggle or a military struggle. No, it came out as an historical process and इसमें हमारा culture, हमारे previous laws, everything was included in that. बहुत लोग बोलते हैं कि our constitution is a borrowed constitution. Okay, मैं इस पे भी एक्चुअली क्रिटिसाइज कर सकता हूँ, बट फॉर द टाइमिंग हमारे पास इतना टाइम स्पेस ही नहीं है बिकॉज 150 वर्ड्स है. So you have to be very very careful. Yes, we had borrowed from various sources. और इसमें तो mention कर सकते हो that there were many English law principles like the equality का concept, the rule of law का concept. There were many American law concepts. Okay, preamble, fundamental rights, liberty, equality, fraternity from France. Okay, and so on and so forth. Although if I would like to criticize this entire statement also, अगर तुम इसको words में डाल सकते हो, so it is not actually so-called as borrowed constitution, so to say, or a copy-paste constitution, so to say, because Dr. Ambedkar himself said that he has ransacked the good parts of all the constitutions of the world. But then we came from, तो हमारे पास traces of Indian Councils Act भी है, हमारे पास traces of Government of India Acts भी है, हमारे पास in fact Government of India Act of 1935 which was a colonial law. Please don't forget. Okay, we actually included that. Almost 60 to 70% of that entire thing was here. So a very important criticism, and it's a criticism, लेकिन ये तुम्हारे क्वेश्चन का आंसर हो सकता है, is that Government of India Act 1935 plus DPSPs were nothing else but what is called as, or plus the fundamental rights, part 3 and part 4 was what the constitution is. So you will have to acknowledge here, yes, there were many constitutional antecedents. Okay, we adopted from various sources. We adopted not only from various sources from outside India, but also from within India also during the entire British Raj. Practically a summary of the entire historical process, so to say. And this is going to be a very beautiful question. But इसको लिखने के लिए तुम्हारे पास एक्चुअली द आर्ट ऑफ आंसर राइटिंग आना ज़्यादा जरूरी है, बिकॉज जो लोग एटलीस्ट मुझसे पढ़े वो इस बारे में आधी बुक लिख सकते हैं, बट यू हैव टू गेट दिस पॉइंट ऑन दिस पार्ट. So the constitution, let's go to the next question. So this is a very nice question. I'm sure you would have addressed this very well. The constitution makers face the great task of forging a common national identity in the face of unparalleled social and cultural diversity in India. Comment. अब इसमें बहुत सारे questions का actually you can take many multiple approaches on this part. Alright. So when I say social and cultural diversity, we can talk about in terms of religion. We can talk in terms of linguistic. We can turn into it in the form of minority, majority, and so on and so forth. So the point here is we will have to address over here. You can talk about Article 15 for that no citizen shall be discriminated on the basis of race, religion, caste, sex, place of birth. All right, ये एक important part था. Then also we were dealing with social. as well as diversity. So with regards to not only social, with gender problems we had to look after, untouchability we had to look after, minority affairs we had to look after. So all these things had to be included in this part. अब the question is not this. Question is not कि write an essay. ये थोड़ा पूछा गया write an essay on social and cultural diversity. The question is how did constitution makers face this and how did they do it? So they faced this because they had to provide. So even if we connect it to your constitution, so you remember this. Okay, so if you look at the preamble itself, okay, we were giving equality of status and of opportunity. We were giving liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. We were also giving equality, or rather entire opportunity of the word that was used was fraternity. So this was it. Also in terms of fundamental right, in terms of Article 29 and Article 30, with regards to minorities, the entire concept of secularism with regards to the religious freedom, all of them can be included under the constitution makers concept of this part. Now, बहुत ही awesome and related question could be found over here. That is C. That is mention the founding principles that define India's constitution. So here you should start with Grote. So the Greek philosopher called Grote. Okay, so you can quote him with regards to constitutional morality. And the entire thing should start with constitutional morality rather than looking at liberty, equality, fraternity only, which is, yes, of course, a very important part. Let's start. Let's take 2-3 main examples, constitutional morality. Otherwise, you'll keep writing many points. So start with constitutional morality, then talk about Dr. Ambedkar. Please, you cannot, of course, ignore any statement given by Dr. Ambedkar in such as when Dr. Ambedkar, you can quote, okay, Dr. Ambedkar, he said, let no one make the mistake, and I'm quoting him, okay, so let no one make the mistake that the underlying philosophy of mine is politics or polity, but it is religion, a religion, and that religion which ensures liberty, equality, and fraternity. So that could be the second one. So Dr. Ambedkar का ये concept आ गया, Grote का ये concept हो गया. Then you can look at the French Revolution, say liberty, equality, and fraternity. Make sure that you make a part of that also. So these are all the concepts, and of course here you can always mention, the concept of equality, Gandhian concept of equality of status and opportunity, which is very important. This is very important. Then you can talk about the Russian constitutional philosophy of justice, which is social, economical, and political. These are, अब इसका actual मतलब क्या है मालूम है? तुम्हें in a way सिर्फ derive करना है things from the preamble, because preamble जो है, it is the summary of the constitution. So you can actually take all those founding principles that have been found in the India's constitution. वो कहाँ लिखा हुआ है? वो preamble में लिखा है. You have to be very smart in trying to find out the answer कहाँ से. The next question is D, that is analyze the Marxist perspective of nature of Indian national movement. अब ये बहुत ही awesome question हो जाएगा because it relates Indian national movement to Marxist concept. So when I say Marxist concept, when I talk of Karl Marx, so can I say start with criticism of the Indian national movement in terms of Marxist understanding? So like Marx used to criticize Indian national movement कि यार ये ना mass struggle नहीं था. This was more of a bourgeoisie struggle. Okay, so his entire context was that war, the first war of independence 1857. ये कोई mass struggle तो था ही नहीं. This was more of a bourgeoisie struggle. The landed, जिनका the haves था, उनका struggle था. So you can quote Marx कि see, he was always talking about Indian national movement, not as a mass struggle. The final ones do not take care of this part, but इनको काउंटर भी कर सकते हो. सो यू हैव टू काउंटर द अदर वंस ऑन दिस पार्ट. अच्छा, इस व्हेन यू काउंटर हिम, डोंट काउंटर हिम लाइक कि ही वाज रॉन्ग. डोंट से दैट मार्क्स वाज रॉन्ग और समथिंग. से देयर इज अ काउंटर ओपिनियन ऑल्सो. सो बहुत अच्छा, मेरे ख्याल से द बेस्ट, डू नॉट टू फाइंड आउट वन, बिपिन चंद्र को कोट कर दो कि नो, डोंट डू दिस पार्ट. बिपिन चंद्र वॉज वेरी क्लियर अबाउट दिस पार्ट डिस्पाइट दैट मार्क्स, एक्चुअली बिपिन चंद्र बहुत जगह पे मार्क्स को सपोर्ट करते थे, but in this case Indian national movement के लिए he would be saying no, it had mass control also. And also important, कि you should not have one big umbrella or one big generalization of any kind of movement. There were traces of bourgeoisie movement also, the Indian bourgeoisie, the metropolitan bourgeoisie, but there were other parts also which had that mass association. So utilize that part. You can also quote M.N. Roy here in support of Marx, because M.N. Roy in a way was also criticizing to a certain extent the Gandhian movement. So you have a couple of movements here bourgeoisie ka favor mein, a couple of movements which are somewhere in the middle, Bipin Chandra ka, a couple of movements you can go with M.N. Roy, the three of them together. So the idea was, is it a mass andolan, so to say, or a mass movement, or was it bourgeoisie movement, is the actual pretext of this part. So तुम्हें समझना पड़ेगा कि क्वेश्चन कहाँ से पूछा जाता है. तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट जो मैं हमेशा सबको बोलता हूँ कि जैसे क्वेश्चन पता चल जाए, तुम्हें चैप्टर का नाम याद आ जाना चाहिए, तुम्हें उस चैप्टर का छोटा पार्ट पता चल जाना चाहिए, यार ये पूछ कहाँ से रहे. That's the entire thing. Otherwise, you cannot start haywire answering, which of course will take you nowhere. Underline the significance of the first constitutional amendment. तुम्हें मालूम होना चाहिए अब ये फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट क्यों क्यों इसको इतना टेंशन में लिया गया. फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1951 था, और फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1951 था, और हम लोग रिपब्लिक बने 1950 में. तो अगर मैं आंध्र बेतल की स्टेटमेंट सुनूं तो ही वॉज कमेंटिंग, आंध्र बेतल actually commented कि India's constitution was so fragile that it required amendment in the very first year of republic. तो हमने उसको बोला ये कैसी कैसी बातें कर रही है. ओके, अमेंडमेंट होना जरूरी होता है, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे माई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज अ लिविंग ब्रीदिंग डॉक्यूमेंट. ओके, ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट इज कि हम लोगों ने हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को रिजिड बनाया ही नहीं था. It was provided with certain amount of flexibility by giving the provisions of Article 368. तो ये criticism quickly करो और straight away चले जाओ first constitutional amendment में. तो first constitutional amendment actually required क्यों था? First constitutional amendment act के दो तीन बहुत major requirements थे. The first requirement was कि fundamental rights और DPSP के बीच में एक dispute arise हो गया था coming out of the चंपकम डोराई राजन केस. तो चंपकम डोराई राजन केस was, ये इसका पूरा नाम तो मेरे जो मुझसे पढ़ा हुआ उनको तो अच्छे से याद होगा. तो चंपकम डोराई राजन was the state of Madras. ओके, 1950. तो इसमें हुआ क्या था, चंपकम डोराई राजन मैडम had gone to take admission in a medical college in the state of Madras at that time, but she was refused admission on the grounds that the so-called seats were reserved, so to say, right, for a particular caste. Now देखा जाए तो this is actually a violation of Article 15 and Article 29 subclause 2. So she approached the courts and the court said that on the one side is your fundamental right, on the other side is Article 46. Sorry. So Article 46 that the state shall try to improve the social and economical status of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other weaker sections of society. तो एक साइड पे फंडामेंटल राइट्स, एक साइड पे डीपीएसपी, कौन जीतेगा? तो चंपकम डोराई राजन केस में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला फंडामेंटल राइट्स विल प्रिवेल ओवर डीपीएसपी, बट हमको देना था रिजर्वेशन. तो फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1951 में पहली बार आर्टिकल 15 सब क्लॉज 4 इंसर्ट किया गया, ट्राइंग टू से दैट वी कैन गिव special provisions, or we can make special provisions for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. Word याद आ गया था, backward classes. In other words, why is first constitutional amendment act useful or significant? Because it gave the first time the constitutional sanction to our reservation policy. और reservation policy क्यों important है? Because ये मेरे social justice का concept है. और social justice क्यों important है? Because ये मेरे equality का concept है. और ये दोनों ही क्यों important है? Because at the end of the day, constitution is a social document written in legal language. Awesome. Second, इसमें एक और चीज आप मेंशन कर सकते हो, इट वाज द फर्स्ट स्टेप व्हिच अल्टीमेटली लेड टू द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्राइन. कैसे? बिकॉज द फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट 1951 में आर्टिकल 31A, 31B एंड द 9th शेड्यूल डाला गया. वाई ये क्यों डाला गया? सो दैट द गवर्नमेंट कुड एक्वायर लैंड. सो ये हमारा एक और कॉन्सेप्ट हो जाएगा दैट इट वाज द सिग्निफिकेंस दैट इट फाइनली लेड टू. फिर मेरे ख्याल से तुम लोगों को सारी कहानी याद होगी कि फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एक्ट को चैलेंज किया गया इन द शंकरी प्रसाद सिंह देव केस, फिर उसके बाद सज्जन सिंह केस ऑफ 1964, फिर गोलकनाथ केस जजमेंट आया 1967, फिर केशवानंद भारती केस आया ऑफ 1973 एंड बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर डॉक्ट्राइन आया, मिनर्वा मिल्स केस आया which finally gave that judicial review is a part of basic structure doctrine and permanently and so on so to say. मैं फिर बोल रहा हूँ, स्पेशली मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स जो मुझसे पढ़े हुए मैं उनके लिए ये बात बोल सकता हूँ, ये मेरे ख्याल से तुम्हारे लिए काउंटर चैलेंज था। इन सारे क्वेश्चन में तुम्हें बहुत ज्यादा कंटेंट ऑलरेडी मालूम है, तुमको इसको कंप्रेस करने में मेरे को लगता है ज्यादा डिफिकल्टी हुआ होगा इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग द सो कॉल्ड ऑपोजिट पार्ट ओवर हियर। नेक्स्ट देख लेते हैं क्वेश्चन नंबर 6 ऑफ दिस पार्ट, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली रिकंसाइलिंग द फंडामेंटल राइट्स विद डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी हैज लेड टू फ्रीक्वेंट अमेंडमेंट्स ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड जुडिशियल इंटरवेंशन। तो ये एक्चुअली देखो प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन से कुछ हद तक रिलेटेड लग रहा है, बट ये है आ गया है बहुत ही खूंखार, बिकॉज ये 20 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन हो जाएगा। Now here you have all the liberty in the world and go all out in and out and try and understand the entire thing of getting this point. So constitutionally reconciling the fundamental rights with directive principle has led to frequent amendments. तो सबसे पहले हम लोग को ये करना पड़ेगा कि you have to understand fundamental rights. Okay, so which are strong? So fundamental rights are strong or prevailing or DPSPs are strong. So here you can very easily talk about Champakam Dorai Rajan case that fundamental rights were supposed to prevail. Fine. Then you define fundamental rights. What are fundamental rights? You define DPSPs. Then you can quote Granville Austin on this part. Austin को quote कर दो. These are the novel ideas of the Constitution of India. Please quote. Okay, quotes को use करना बड़ा जरूरी होता है. Please remember this is the PSIR exam. मैं हमेशा बोलता हूँ please utilize. अपने सर पे कुछ भी मत लो. जो भी लेना है quote it to somebody else, right? So now you get the novel ideas, then you ensure इसमें article 37 mention कर दो that these are non-justiciable, but still the government is duty bound because article 37 says that the state shall be bound to follow the principles while making laws. Now you are ready to say this part कि क्या the state should go ahead with DPSPs or should it ignore fundamental rights or should it lead to somewhere in the middle of reconciliation. Reconciliation होना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है. सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट जगह यहां पर आ जाएगी when you mention 25th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1971 when 39B and C, Article 39B and C were given the precedence over the fundamental rights and they were upheld in the Keshavananda Bharati case. Then the 42nd Amendment Act 1976 जिसमें 39BNC की जगह पूरे DPSPs को premise को बढ़ा दिया गया था and that was brought down in the Minerva Mills case of 1980. So we have seen कि on one side governments try to impose DPSPs but multiple times they come under clash with the entire thing of the fundamental rights. Also you should also mention Champakam Dorai Rajan के साथ साथ and all the Keshavananda Bharati cases के साथ because please remember यहाँ पे judicial interventions आया है, so don't ignore this part. So theoretical answer लिखकर मत चले जाना. अगर तुम्हारे पास टाइम आएगा तो you have so much of space you can write about liquor ban. Why liquor ban? Because liquor ban deals with your in a way, okay, in a way it is allowed under Article 47 of the Constitution, but is it allowed under all conditions? It is surprise. Also you can talk about Article 48 which is cow slaughter ban. तो मैंने तुमको पढ़ाया हुआ है मोहम्मद हनीफ कुरैशी केस. You should talk about this part that Hanif Qureshi case when Supreme Court laid down the grounds that there can always be what is called as harmonious constructions between fundamental rights and DPSPs. So we have seen so many amendments. ये इसको जरूर एड्रेस करना. Okay, all amendments, first constitutional amendment, 25th amendment, 42nd amendment, okay, the liquor ban, Article 48, and so on and so forth, and also judicial interventions with regards to the entire context of the Supreme Court interfering in these matters. So these are the various concepts that you have to be worried about, and please go all out. Whatever I have taught, make sure that you make sure that entire thing on the picture. Very important and a very nice question. I'm very, very impressed. Thank you that UPSC started asking these questions. Role of President of India becomes more significant during a minority government and coalition government. So यहाँ से आप address करोगे that the President of India has been severally criticized as a rubber stamp office, but it is wrong. Why? Because it has been said that the President is the head of the state, but the most important thing is when there is no clear majority in the parliament. When there is no clear majority in the parliament, it shall be the discretion of the president. It shall be the discretion of the president to, मैं फिर लाइन बोल रहा हूं, ध्यान से सुनना, to invite the leader of the single largest party or the single largest pre-poll alliance to form the government. मैंने क्या बोला? To invite the leader of the single largest party or the leader of single largest pre-poll alliance to form the government. तो कोएलिशन गवर्नमेंट, ओके, जो मिली जुली सरकार के टाइम पर द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया हैज सर्टेनली बिकम मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट रोल because he is the one who will use his wisdom and discretion to call a particular person, a particular leader, either of the single largest party or the pre-poll alliance to form the government. So in no way can you say that the president is a rubber stamp office. वेरी ब्यूटिफुल क्वेश्चन, लेकिन इसमें तुम और ऐड करो कि इट इज वेरी वेरी सरप्राइजिंग व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, कि आपको ये एड्रेस करना चाहिए कि कोएलिशन नाम का कोई वर्ड इज नॉट गिवन इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. कोएलिशन इन द वर्ड्स ऑफ द ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट इज द नीड ऑफ द आवर्स, ओके, और द नीड ऑफ द आवर, because ever since 1990s it was very very difficult for anyone to get a clear majority, and we were returning elections with what is called as fractured mandate, and those fractured mandate को और कोई रास्ता नहीं था but coalition, and hence the president has been playing a very important role, especially in 1990s, at least till 2014 when Mr. Narendra Modi came with a full majority in the government. So the next question with regards to this is, do you think that despite having significant limitations, the Panchayati Raj institutions have strengthened the process of democratic decentralization? Now, यहाँ पर you cannot just go and answer any of these parts. First of all, you have to understand that democratic decentralization is practically a technical term. So you will have to talk about Balwant Rai Mehta Committee. Yes, there is something called, so the words that were used by Balwant Rai Mehta Committee were democratic decentralization. So you have to explain democratic decentralization on the words of Balwant Rai Mehta, and explain that once Balwant Rai Mehta Committee was formed, it was done to investigate whether the CDS and CDP and the National Extension Services, why have they failed, and so on and so forth. You have to go on this part. Then you will also have to explain that because of the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee in Nagaur district, we decided to go for the Panchayati Raj institutions. But once we went into the Panchayati Raj institutions, we realized that they are not working. So look at Sadiq Ali Committee report, and Sadiq Ali Committee report said that it will not function because there is no financial autonomy, there is no awareness, and that is why the entire system is going to fail. So now you go and again explain on Ashok Mehta Committee, and finally till the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1992. So now you quote in terms of the democratic. So where is this starting from? This is all starting from the Gandhian Swaraj model. So it is the Gandhian Swaraj model, which was the Gram Swaraj model. So you can always say there were three components: individual concept, the country's concept, okay, and the village self-rule concept. So one Gandhian concept was that give power back to the people, gave power back to the people, gave the power back to the grassroots, and that concept was the one which made a part of Article 40 of the Constitution. You can again, because you have 15 marks ka paper, you can always say that both Jawaharlal Nehru and Dr. Ambedkar was not willing to, or were not intending to give the so-called local government right at the advent of the constitution, but for different reasons. Jawaharlal Nehru did not want to give because this could have raised more question marks on the federalism. Dr. Ambedkar did not want to give because he thought, and I'll quote again, that the villages are still the bastions of uneducated and the so-called criticism of discrimination. Then you go ahead, ki what has happened. So here you can talk about the Administrative Reforms Commission reports, which says that the local governments have not been able to function because it has not been able to attain autonomy. It has still, the state governments have yet not devolved any of these powers as were required. The subject matters have not been given completely. State Election Commission is still under the state government. State Finance Commission is still functioning only as a recommendatory body, and this is the reason why everything is going wrong. And the day they will start devolution instead of delegation, we are going to have a better thing part. So ऐसा मत करो कि सिर्फ इसको क्रिटिसाइज करो, बिकॉज देन यू शुड ऑल्सो गिव महाभागीरथी phase 2 model, Kadamshri model, it has worked, Vellum Code model, it has worked, and in variety of ways, and also Beti Bachao Beti Padhao program has been done according to the local government. So on those contexts, this becomes a relevant question, and दोनों साइड की बातें बोलो और address the question. That's how you answer a question from both the angles. The next question, the next question of Indian party system. One of those questions which I would be very, very happy, because is time per electoral reforms and all these questions are very, very important. Indian party system is shaped by a complex interaction of the country's federal structure, electoral system and social cleavage. तो यहाँ पर आप start करो with regards to democracy. Democracy is with people and okay, government by the people, of the people, for the people. But democracy has changed its colors from the first elections in which the independents had won almost the second largest number of seats. We have come to a kind of representational democracy in which it has become more of political party democracy instead of individual representation. So you will have to come down to that part. Now, here we have to talk about three main things. One, federal structure. Second, electoral system. Third is social cleavages. That is it important that political parties be merely doing politics, or does political parties actually represent the interests of social groups all across the country? I'm sure you will agree to the second part, say this part, that at least the regional parties, right, are very, very crucial to address those issues of the vast majority of people all over India. This has been recognized by the Election Commission of India, hence they give representation, or they allow both regional parties as well as national and state parties to act. If you don't do this, then the entire question mark will come on federalism. Federalism is a very, very crucial component, because if there is no division of power, if everyone does not have mass representation, it will not function. Federalism is a part of basic structure doctrine of the Constitution of India. Hence, regional parties are important to mention with social cleavages. They are allowed in terms of electoral system. You are talking about federal structure. यहाँ पर रुकना मत. Then you talk about Representation of People's Act of 1951 and talk about the recognition to the state parties, recognition to the national parties under section 6B, section 6A, 6B and 6C, so that it is ensured that it is a party system, right? It is a party system. You have space because 20 marks ka hai. Then start comparing it with the various party systems like in USA, okay, where there are two bi-party systems, all right. So you will have to understand, because in India it becomes very, very difficult to understand with regards to only one party or two parties. It's just not possible, because we have large amount of social and regional diversity which cannot be addressed, unlike that in USA. So compare that to USA, compare that to England, although it is considered to be, there are more than two parties, but actually considered to be a bi-party system. So that entire system is the one which is rushing with our democracy. If you don't do that, then our democracy does not function. Then come and finally address the entire thing, that because democracy has to give final consent to the people, they must be properly represented. Do you think that there has been a gradual shift on the basis of which demands of the creation of new states has been raised in different regions of India? ये तुमको पूरा का पूरा हिस्ट्री स्टार्ट करना है, तो कहाँ से स्टार्ट करना है? तो स्टार्ट करो, ऐसे मत रुको. दैट इसको प्री कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल टाइम से स्टार्ट करो. दैट ड्यूरिंग द वेरियस कांग्रेस सेशंस इट वाज एग्रीड इवन ड्यूरिंग 1930s, in fact during the Motilal Nehru report also, that India must have linguistic states. But suddenly after independence there were quite a bit of question marks being raised. Then the question mark was raised and the Dhar commission was appointed. Dhar commission said no, we don't want to divide on the basis of language. JVP committee was made, and that JVP committee, isko word use karna, they kept the door half open. Word use karna, they kept the door half open. We are not saying yes to linguistic division today, but tomorrow if there is vehement demand from the people, then we might allow this to happen. So these were the points, but then came the big issue in Andhra state in 1950 with the death of Poti Sriramalu, and Andhra state came into existence in 1953 with regards to the existence of Telugu speaking state. Because of this, entire commission was formed, and that commission was called as Fazal Ali Commission, which ultimately led to the State Reorganization Commission, and the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act 1956 was passed, and we divided India into states and union territories primarily on linguistic lines. ये हो गया historical part. So there has been a gradual shift in the basis on which demands for the creation of new states have been raised in different regions. तो क्या सिर्फ language था? No. Beyond that, we started noticing that there were more reasons also. Jharkhand got separated, or rather Jharkhand, the demand for formation of Jharkhand, which actually started way long back, was not only on the basis of language or on the basis of cultural identity, but also on the causes of development. Jharkhand always felt that Bihar got the lion's share of all the revenue. We did not get this part. The demand for Telangana and Andhra, okay, is even long, right? Even long. In fact, close to the formation of Andhra itself. In fact, you can quote Jawaharlal Nehru on this part when he said that they are neither married nor divorced. Okay, so it is a very important concept. Okay, you can look into this part. You can always quote about Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, that we are now forming this so that everybody gets representation, the UTs are formed, and as promised by the present government and the present powers to be, that very soon there will be a legislative assembly elections, or a full-fledged say to say. Don't forget, in city of Delhi, okay, this is another very important part. Talk of Balakrishna Commission report and mention this part. Great. Next is what explains India's modest improvements in social development outcomes even as the rate of growth has accelerated since the initiation of economic reforms. Again, you can see there was a challenge. यहाँ पे एक बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन जो मैं तुम लोगों को एग्जाम में पहले बताता था. Democracy may not be. So, is democracy favorable to development, or is democracy not favorable to development? Okay, you can quote into this part. This is a long discussion. So, I would suggest that you can watch that entire class on my Unacademy channel, and I think you'll be able to comment. Is it primarily because of democracy, or we have become soft, or do we have to cater to everybody's need or not? Success of electoral democracy can partly be attributed to the status and the role of Election Commission of India. Beautiful question, and I think you can talk about Election Commission of India way in and way out. Make sure you talk all the way from Article 325 of the Constitution. Talk about this part, superintendence, direction and control. Talk about autonomy. Talk about the definition of autonomy as compared to Election Commission of India, as compared to all other bodies. Then is it the same as judiciary, or are we quasi-judicial? Can we say that Election Commission of India, once given all the powers, they will be able to do this better or not. थोड़े बहुत रिफॉर्म्स की भी बात कर सकते हो. यू कैन टॉक अबाउट टीएन सेशंस, you can talk about MS scale, you can talk about electoral reforms, you can talk about VVPAT, and you can certainly talk about model code of conduct. You can, for the time being, okay, stay clear of any other controversy and start talking only in the positive terms of this part. Examine the evolution and jurisdiction of Supreme Court as a constitutional court. Unbelievable question. और अगर तुम इसको क्वेश्चन को एड्रेस करने में अगर तुम 15 मार्क्स में कर लेते हो तो तुम्हारे में ये एबिलिटी है कि तुम टन्स एंड टन्स ऑफ चीज को मिनिस्क्यूल कर सकते हो. सो प्लीज यहां से स्टार्ट करना ऑल द वे फ्रॉम फेडरल कोड 1937, talk about privy courts or the privy council courts, combine them with Supreme Court. Supreme Court came into existence, talk about Article 124 to Article 147, talk about all the types of jurisdiction including original jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction, revisionary jurisdiction, so on and so say. Mention some good judgments, okay, in which the Supreme Court has played a huge role. For example, Keshavananda Bharati case. डोंट फॉरगेट टू कोट. मैं हमेशा ये बात बोल रहा हूँ, प्लीज कोट. जवाहरलाल नेहरू को कोट करो जब आप क्रिटिसाइज करो. व्हेन ही एक्सप्रेस हिज फियर दैट सुप्रीम कोर्ट में बिकम अ थर्ड चेंबर ऑफ लेजिस्लेचर, ओके, एंड दैट वुड बी अ वेरी सैड डे, ओके, बट हैव वी डन दिस? नो. हैव वी नॉट डन दिस? ऑफ कोर्स यस. So you will have to do both the ways and make sure that you don't go into this part. And finally, explain how caste as a social category is also becoming a political category in the democratic politics. I think you can always talk about this part as OBCs, the caste politics. That is very, very important. Talk about Dr. Ambedkar, talk about annihilation of caste, quote him on annihilation of caste system, or okay. And also for the timing, when you're talking on this part, you certainly cannot forget about the reservation policy, talk about the politicization of reservation policy and the entire electoral dynamics with regards to OBC and the caste politics over here. So in short, ये एग्जाम इतना प्रेडिक्टेबल हो जाता, इतना इजी हो जाएगा if you are able to understand the basics of the entire subject. And we have done this in so much of detail. मुझे अभी भी ये सरप्राइज हो रहा है कि अगर कोई स्टूडेंट जो हमसे पढ़े हुए वो इसको कंप्राइज करने में, सारा खेल ये नहीं हो जाएगा कि व्हाट डू यू नो, द सारा खेल ये हो जाएगा हाउ डू यू राइट इन दिस लिमिटेड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. सो आई वुड सिंसियरली सजेस्ट दैट यू स्टार्ट प्रैक्टिसिंग आंसर राइटिंग, बिकॉज फैक्ट्स आपको मैंने बहुत दिए हुए हैं और मैं देता ही रहूंगा. ओके, द आंसर राइटिंग का आर्ट तुमको करना पड़ेगा. And in the next set of this paper, we will make sure that we will try and get a learner taki he or she will also be able to explain what he or she wrote or thought about writing in an exam like this part. Because me telling you and instead of that a student of mine telling you will be an altogether different approach. So I hope you have appreciated and understood how to go about this exam. In the words of Unacademy, let's crack it. Don't forget to join us, right? Use the code SIDLIVE. And in the words of Unacademy, let's crack it. Until next time, God bless. Thank you and Jai Hind.